now call the January 22nd, 2013 regular meeting of the Riverton City Council to order at 7:35. Would Councilmember Heiser please lead us in the
Yes.
pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, would the city clerk please read the roll?
Yes, Your Honor. Councilman John Lars Baker.
Here.
Councilwoman Mary Ellen Christensen.
Present.
Councilman Eric Heiser.
Here.
Councilman Rich Guard.
Here.
Councilman Jonathan Fabian.
Here.
Councilman Todd Smith.
Here.
Mayor Ron Warbness.
I'm present. I declare that we have a quorum this evening. The chair would entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda.
Your Honor, I move that we approve the agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The chair would entertain a motion to convene into executive session for the purpose of potential litigation, considering litigation to which our governing body is or may be a party in accordance with Wyoming Statute 16-4-405A-III.
Your Honor, I move we adjourn into executive session.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Reconvene into regular session.
I move that we reconvene into regular session.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, do we need a motion on any action taken? Okay, moving right along. Communication from the floor, citizens' comments. Anyone in the audience wishing to address the council regarding an item that is already on the agenda will be given an opportunity to speak later on. I would ask those individuals who wish to address the council at this time to approach the podium and identify yourself for the record. Is there anyone wishing to address the council at this time?
Good evening. My name is Aaron Justice. Thank you for hearing me tonight, and I hope you've had a chance to look over the paper that I submitted to you earlier. Tonight, I have 2 points that I'd like to share with you. First is the North Federal rebuild coming up with the Highway Department. I submitted a very similar paper to the one that you received, hopefully, and they welcomed my ideas and asked me to speak with you all because evidently it's kind of a joint venture. So I know the city doesn't have a lot of money to build a Vegas-style street, but I believe with just a bit of vision for the future and an eye towards inclusivity for all of Riverton's residents, we can make North Federal Boulevard into a wonderful artery for transportation as well as a destination, a place. Please note the reasons and supporting citations in the sheet I provided. And number 1, a slower street will provide much needed safety and access for those without vehicles. I did the math, and City Park to Walmart is 1.2 miles. And driving 20 miles an hour, just 10 miles slower, will only add 72 seconds to your trip. But it'll make a world of difference to pedestrians and bicyclists. Anything over 30 miles an hour, or over 20 miles an hour, is far too fast for a citizen to get out of the way, or for traffic, car versus citizen always loses. And so I would wish for you to consider that. Also, bike lanes to be considered on North Federal. Talking with Mr. Falbian, he said we have bike paths around town, but I'm speaking more of transportation bicycling, rather than those out for a Sunday afternoon jaunt on one of the great bike trails we already have in town. More of the transportation bicycling. So bike lanes would be a wonderful addition if we might consider that. And one of the more kooky ideas was roundabouts on a lot of the on the main intersections. You'll notice in the sheet I provided, the Nevada Department of Transportation provided about 6, I believe it was, positive reasons, 7, for considering roundabouts as compared to regular intersections. That's the first point. The North Federal Boulevard, if we might consider a bit of future planning for that. Secondly, my second reason for addressing you tonight is to consider, asking you, or for you to consider making all of Riverton more pedestrian and bicycle safe. For the same reasons noted in the paper, we can make Riverton more safe, more prosperous, and more just by giving equal consideration to all forms of transportation and not just fast-moving cars and trucks. For number one, as I said, over 20 miles an hour is too fast for anyone walking. I own a business on Main Street with my family, and every day I see the impacts of the high-speed traffic. One lady told me she didn't like to walk with her 3-year-old downtown because the traffic is too fast. Our paper boy was hit by a car last spring delivering papers. I've almost been hit in my little family numerous times by people coming around the right turn on red. They almost hit you and they park across the crosswalks because they're in such a hurry and the downtown is so fast. So I can ask you to consider making maybe right turns on Main Street downtown not appropriate. Secondly, I also live on Spire Drive in the south part of town, and many people use my street as a high-speed bypass for Main Street now that Major Drive or Major Avenue is put in. And most of the parents on our street won't let our children play out front in the front yards because people are doing 40 up and down our street. It's a neighborhood. Another thing would be prosperity. We can make Riverton more prosperous by increasing foot traffic. As you'll notice in the paper I provided, one city increased their tax revenue by 30% just by making their downtown more pedestrian friendly. More foot traffic equals more sales for the downtown businesses, the federal businesses, or any businesses. And lastly, it could be a matter of justice. Not everyone in our town can afford cars, trucks, and the expenses that go with them, and so they have to walk or bike. And we should welcome them as part of us and provide easy access to all of our town with slow speeds, clearly marked crosswalks, bike lanes, good sidewalks, and enforced driving laws. I've watched too many times to count as walkers have to wait at crosswalks while fast-moving cars won't even stop for them. Something can be done, and I believe something should, and that's why I've addressed you tonight, asking you to consider, if you would, making Riverton more pedestrian and bicyclist friendly. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend. We appreciate it. Is there anyone else who would like to address the council? Okay. We will move on to the consent agenda. Would the city clerk please read the consent agenda items by title only?
Yes, Your Honor. Approval of the minutes, January 8th, 2013 regular council meeting. Approval of the minutes, January 15th, 2013 council work session. Approval of the minutes, January 21st, 2013 Finance Committee meeting. Approval of Finance Committee recommendations, January 21st, 2013. Catering permits, Bartan for February 2nd. I'm sorry, that's my alarm. I have to get up. I apologize. Catering permit for Bar 10, February 2nd, 2013, Ducks Unlimited at the Armory from 5 p.m. to 12 a.m. Back Bar, January 26, 2013, Cattleman's Dinner at Armory from 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. And ordinance number 13-001, and pursuant to statutory requirements, I'll read the title. Title is Amending Chapter 17.08 Livestock Unit Definition. Proposed ordinance number 13-001, an ordinance amending Title 17 Zoning to revise Chapter 17.08 Definitions, Section 17.08.010 Definitions of the Riverton Municipal Code, and repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith and providing for an effective date.
Your Honor, it's the recommendation of the Finance Committee for the approval of claims to be paid in the amount of $238,601.75. Elin credit card in the amount of $6,818.14. Checks written for payroll liabilities for December 28, 2012 and January 11, 2013 in the amount of $384,431.45 for a total of $629,851.34.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion regarding the consent agenda.
Your Honor, I'd move to approve consent as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion on any of the items? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, replat of lot number 7, Track A, Brentwood Addition. Community Development Director's report, please.
Yes, Your Honor. This is a plat of Tract A and Lot 7 of Block 1 Brentwood Addition in Fremont County. It is located north of Sunset Drive and to the east of Major Avenue. This area is currently zoned mobile home park. This is the replat for the property that is currently in the zoning process right now, and that zoning is contingent on the approval of this plat. This property is being replatted to accommodate a development by a potential buyer and to correct problems with the deed on the northern portion of Tract A. There are 2 property owners involved in this replat. The owner of Lot 7 also owns the northerly portion of Tract A. On this replat, Lot 7 and that northerly portion of Tract A will be combined to create Lot 1A. The balance of Tract A will be split into 2 lots. The middle lot of Tract A will be Lot 2A, and it is in the process of currently being rezoned to Residential B, and then the southern portion of Tract A will become Lot 3A, and it's currently being rezoned to Commercial Office CO. That newly created Lot 1A will remain Mobile Home Park, which is the Mobile Home Park District. When this went to the Planning Commission, there was some discussion regarding the irrigation easements. We did have Craig Cooper, speaking for LeClaire Irrigation, come into the office and said that the 30-foot easement along the easterly boundary of this replat is probably adequate, but wanted the owner to know that they needed to have access to the drain ditch. It has required cleaning and reworking every 10 to 20 years, and it is expected that that activity will need to continue if the drain is left open. The Planning Commission did recommend approval of this replat on January 10th.
Okay, thank you. The chair would entertain a motion regarding Lot 7, Track A, Brentwood Addition.
Your Honor, I'd make a motion that we accept the plat as reviewed.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is it
Opposed?
third reading?
It's just a replat. Third
No,
reading's
on the
next.
replat, this is just
Oh,
a second reading.
okay, I misunderstood. Yep.
Let's redo that again. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Okay. Agenda item number 9, ordinance number 12-022, third and final reading, rezone lots 2A and 3A, replat of Tract A, Brentwood Addition. Would the city clerk please read the ordinance number 12-022 by title only?
Yes, Your Honor. This is proposed ordinance number 12-022 on third and final reading. An ordinance amending the zoning district map of the city of Riverton, Wyoming, designating the rezone of Lot 2A and Lot 2B, replat of Tract A and Lot 7 of Block 1, Brentwood Addition, City of Riverton, Fremont County, Wyoming, from MHP to Residential B for Lots 2A and CO Commercial Office for Lot 3A.
Okay, the chair would entertain a motion regarding ordinance number 12-022.
Your Honor, I'd make the motion to pass ordinance number 12-022.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? Okay, will the clerk please read the roll call on this particular ordinance?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Sorry, we're having a conversation.
Councilmember Mary Ellen Christensen.
Yes.
Councilmember Todd Smith.
Yes.
Councilman John Lars Baker.
Yes.
Councilman Rich Guard.
Yes.
Councilmember Jonathan Fabian.
Yes.
Councilman Eric Heiser.
Yes.
Mayor Wartness.
And the mayor votes yes. Ordinance number 13-002, first reading, amending chapters 6.04 and 6.08, allowing chickens in the city limits. The chair would entertain a motion to remove ordinance number,
Mayor, this cater event that I'm doing is on February 9th, not February 2nd. And I believe we turned the paperwork in correctly. I think there might have been just maybe a miscommunication somewhere along the line, but if it was on our end, I apologize. But it's supposed to be for February 9th for Ducks Unlimited.
It's listed as February 9th on his application, Mayor.
It does.
okay. Oh, it's just a typo on ours.
Okay. Do we have to amend that?
I don't know. Do you need any corrective action on that, or is that,
No, sir, the application reads February 9th.
okay, so it's just a
Absolutely.
typo on here.
Okay,
All right.
thanks, guys.
Thank you
Appreciate
for
it.
drawing that to our attention. We appreciate it. Okay,
Sorry, Mayor.
I'm sorry?
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem. Back to agenda item number 10, ordinance number 13-002 on first reading, amending chapters 6.04 and 6.08, allowing chickens in the city limits. The chair would entertain a motion to remove ordinance 13.002 first reading from the table.
I move that we remove ordinance 13.002 from the table.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to remove this ordinance from the table. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, would the city clerk please read ordinance number 13.002 by title only?
Yes, Your Honor. Proposed ordinance number 13-002, an ordinance amending Title 6, Animals, revising sections 16.04.010, livestock and fowl running at large prohibited, and 6.04.030, pens, enclosures, etc. Adding sections 6.04.005, definitions, 6.04.035, keeping certain animals, and 6.04.045, noisy and nuisance animals, and deleting section 6.01.010, definitions of the Riverton Municipal Code, and repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinance in conflict therewith and providing for an effective date.
Thank you.
Your
The
Honor.
chair- Yes.
I would like to amend my motion that's on the floor for this ordinance. And I'll read the language for 6-04-035, keeping certain animals. So I'd like to amend the motion that was presented at last meeting to approve ordinance number 13-002 on first reading to read as follows under this section. A, it is unlawful for any person to collect, keep, or feed any cattle, horses, sheep, goats, mules, swine, or other livestock or any fowl within the Riverton city limits except as provided in section 17.36.010, section 17.72.030, section 17.84.020, and section 6.04.035B. B, chickens are allowed within the city limits providing the requirements of Title VI animals, and this section are met. Number 1, not more than 12 chickens over 100 days old shall be kept on the premises of any owner. Number 2, the chickens are kept for only the purpose of education, science, companionship, exhibition, or personal consumption. 3, the enclosure, fence, or pen in which the chickens are kept shall be at least 15 feet from property lines of all neighboring residences, unless the owner of said residence waives this requirement in writing. Number 4, each individual chicken shall have available to it a living space of not less than 9 square feet in area with a ceiling height of not less than 2 feet. And number 5, roosters are not allowed within the city limits.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll second that.
Okay, the chair would entertain a motion to, regarding ordinance number 13-002 as amended.
Your Honor, point of order. We just had a motion and a second, so I think we would have to vote on that
On the
first.
amendment. I think you're
Yeah.
correct.
Discuss the amendment if anybody wanted to, and then
Okay, we've got a motion and a second on the amendment. Is there discussion? Thank you, Eric.
Yeah.
well, Your Honor,
Yes.
I just, the reason I tabled this last meeting was that I felt really unsettled about it, and while it would be nice to think that every person would be respectful of their neighbors and their chickens, I just felt like that we needed a little bit more hand in this, and so this is language that's that we more or less borrowed from the city of Laramie. That I thought was really good, and Sandy worked to figure out how to get it plugged into to this current statute. So we could have chickens inside the city limits, but it would be under a restricted basis. So that's why I did it.
Okay. Further discussion?
Your Honor, this is for either Todd or Lars. What was the logic in choosing 12 as the cap?
I'll give you part of my logic. I don't know about cap, but I was thinking that, a lot of different places do different things. And there's a lot of cities that don't allow it or don't restrict numbers. There's some that do 4 to 6. There's others that do 15. A dozen maybe would, up to a dozen might, help with the ideas of not having, large flocks of chickens running around or hundreds of chickens in someone's yard, but still gives, moderate-sized families. Part of the first thing that Sandy came up with, or some of the facts that she presented a couple meetings ago, was it takes 2 chickens per person to keep someone in eggs if they want to eat those eggs. So, that would give, a family of 6 or, enough eggs to keep in that if they wanted to have that many, but just to put some sort of a limit on it so we weren't leaving that totally wide open. So I don't know if Lars has any other comments on that.
It's arbitrary. If you have a better number, I'm open to suggestions.
I guess my only thought is that I've seen 10 chickens often at my parents' house, and it seems like quite a lot of chickens to me, but I don't know that it's worth quabbling over 2 chickens, though.
Any other comments anyone would like to make?
You certainly could have fewer.
Well, and it is limited by square footage.
There's a limit, so on how much room you're willing to devote to them.
I guess from my perspective, when we had this discussion last time before it was tabled, why with these amendments, why you've hit 3 of the 4 concerns that I had. And the only concern that I continue to have is that the way that it's written, it will be allowed in all zoned areas across the city. And it just, I guess, bothers me a little bit to think that we've, had all of the heartburn that we had over daycare regarding children and whatnot in residential A, and we're not concerned at all about having chickens. So to me, that just seems interesting. And
Your Honor,
yes,
I understand your point of view completely, and yet when we were talking about daycare, we had a room full of people here and who were opposed to that. And the comment that I have comments from people in 2 ways. I have people who think they ought to be able to have a chicken or 2 in their backyard, and I have people who think that we're silly to waste any time on it.
yeah, and I don't
But
disagree with
I
that at
don't-
all. I don't know how we got here to start
But I
with.
don't hear very many people who say, no, absolutely not.
Yes.
Okay, so I think this isn't bad, and I really don't think very many people are going to have chickens. Those who have had experience with chickens will buy their chicken at the store.
The other, I guess, concern that I have, I just read the chief's report where he, I think, indicated that they had over 13,000 calls for service last year, 13,300 and some, I believe it was, about 37 calls a day. And I just wonder if we're going to be adding more to that call for service over, various chicken issues and so. But other than that, I'm certainly willing to go along with the will of the council. I don't plan on having chickens myself, but at any rate. Is there any other discussion?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I did want to say that today I had several people approach me about no chickens at all in town. That I have had a fair amount say no chickens, or they just thought it was silly that we're spending a lot of time on this. I do have to say that there are some out there in the zoning area that we discussed about daycare that we're not for those. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor at this time. Is there further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? No. The mayor votes no. Okay. Resolution number 1268, supporting the,
Your Honor, we just amended the motion.
Right.
okay, and so now we need to vote on the amended motion.
That's correct.
So we need a motion on ordinance number 13-002 by title only.
Point of order, Your Honor, that motion was pulled off the floor from the last meeting, so the motion on the floor is to approve ordinance number 13-002 on first reading as amended.
Okay. Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same
No.
sign? No. 2 no votes is my understanding. Okay, now we'll go to agenda item number 11, resolution number 1268, supporting Wildlife Resource Center, Wyoming Life Resource Center. Would the city clerk please read resolution 1268 by title only?
Resolution number 1268, a resolution supporting Wyoming Life Resource Center.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion regarding resolution number 1268?
Your Honor, I'd move to approve resolution 1268.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? This was an issue that was brought to my attention by Mayor Wolf and Lander, and called my office and asked if the city of Riverton would consider supporting Lander in opposition to the study that the legislature is wanting to do. The concern, I think, from their perspective is that it being the largest employer in Lander, that there's a concern that they may be trying to close down the Wyoming Life Resource Center. And we've been assured by several legislators that that is not the case, that they just want to look at the economics and see how best to use state funding and whatnot. I've got real mixed feelings about it personally, but I can certainly see both sides of it, but it's a huge revenue stream, I guess, for Fremont County that comes into the county. We have a number of citizens in Riverton that work over at that center, and I know if it were to close up shop, why Lander would have a serious impact as well. And so I think from my perspective as mayor, I want to do everything that we can to support our sister community, and when they call for help, why we want to try to help them if we can. If I were a legislator, why I would want to look at the economics of the situation as well. The other side of it is we've got community entry services here in town that have a similar client population, and I think there's a feeling that maybe there's a competition for resources, that if there was not the Wyoming Life Resource consuming so much resource in that area, that perhaps CES could get a little better funding or something. I took the liberty of contacting Sean Griffin with CES, and that was the information that I was able to glean from Mr. Griffin. So it's one of these things that he certainly didn't have any problem with our moving ahead with this resolution, and so I guess with that, if there's no other discussion, if anyone else would like to comment on it.
Your Honor,
Yes, Councilman Guard.
I know Councilman Smith called me earlier tonight, and we discussed this a little bit, and anything we can do to assist Lander, I think is our first thought, and yet whenever Legislator Larson came out with trying to make sure that people understood that this is just a study, and I have my disappointments on studies, and they actually have a tendency to turn into something that maybe wasn't recommended. And so I do trust Legislator Larson's opinion, and I think the thing that is disappointing to us is it's difficult for government to ever cut backwards. It can always go forward and increase, but when it wants to make steps to reduce its cost and its footprint, we all have a tendency to say, oh no, do that elsewhere. And I've made the statement many times that we can see waste in Washington and we can see waste in Cheyenne, but we certainly don't want to see any waste in Riverton or Fremont County. And yet, if we don't study those things and come up with a viable solution, government never goes backwards. It just continues to grow. And so I think the resolution is a wonderful idea, with the thought behind it that we are going to have to try to save some money as we go through these things. And if that has to happen, I wouldn't wish that to happen to that employer even. But I think we have to look at those things, and that's part of the problem of trying to not step on the cat's tail. Thank you, Mayor.
I agree. I think our perspective here is completely different than what the legislature in Cheyenne is, and so it's a difficult issue to know just how to deal with it. But okay, we've got a motion and a second on the floor regarding resolution number 1268. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Mayor votes aye. Okay, good. RIW Industrial Park Plat, Community Development Director's report, please.
Yes, Your Honor. The RIW Industrial Park is a plat park plat is a minor subdivision. It's located on the west side of Airport Road, north of Piper Drive and south of Cessna Drive. City of Riverton has been creating parcels in this industrial park that can be purchased and developed. This plat will create 5 lots in an area that was previously annexed into the city, and it is currently zoned light industrial. One of these parcels is in the process of being purchased, and the sale will be finalized when this plat is approved and recorded. The parcel that is being purchased is the new site for the new FedEx facility. All public improvements for this plat have been installed as part of a Wyoming Business Council grant. The Planning Commission did recommend approval of this plat on January 10th.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion regarding the RIW Industrial Park plat.
Your Honor, I move that we approve the RIW Industrial Park Plan.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Agenda item number 13 is present North Federal Committee findings. Present North Federal Committee findings. Committee report from Mr. Gunnison.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe everyone's been supplied with our findings. And what I would propose doing is offering any clarification or handling questions on it. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but if I might.
Are there any questions of Chairman Gunnison regarding the work that he and his committee have done?
Your Honor,
Yes,
I just had
Councilman Heiser.
one here. I gotta find out where. I had the page and then I lost it.
While you're looking for that, Councilman, I guess maybe I can synopsize and basically say that most of the embellishments proposed have basically been turned down by our group as far as recommendation goes. The big problem that we came up with that we were basically unable to decide on was the most important, and that would be the proposed lighting. And I would just point out that our recommendation was on LED options D and G. And basically what we're doing is asking our government to do what we couldn't do and decide probably on with our recommendation on those 2 options.
I think I found the answer. I'll just clarify, Mr. Gunnison, that the reason you looked towards the metered LED poles was because of the seasonal lighting opportunity, and I suppose the non-metered doesn't give that opportunity.
That's right.
I just wanted to clarify why it was we were looking at a metered versus a non-metered, so that's all I had.
Councilman Guard, did you have something?
I'd like to thank Mr. Gunnison for his efforts on the tough committee to be on, and I appreciated your help.
Thank you.
I appreciated your report, and I think that the real problem lies, where do we get that kind of money? And I really would like to try to keep it off of the special use and on the cost of the property owners off of federal. But $1.2 million is a sizable sum. So I suppose we'll have to look at further suggestions on what to do there. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
I guess I would just point out that our one selection of LED method is based on long-term savings. And a lot of our decision-making was based on not only availability of funds, but also the nature of Federal Boulevard as a thoroughfare, quite a bit different than Main Street. And there was a lot of feeling that we wanted to mirror our accomplishment. Main Street is beautiful, And we wanted to not only reflect that, but also extend the South Federal effort. But the expense and our inability to see where that money's coming from came into this. And a lot of the discussion by our previous speaker is going to have to be solved with YDOT. I think you all probably know that. We tried to cover some of these issues, and we simply, our input here is limited. So that's going to have to be worked out with YDOT.
Yes.
I want to thank Mr. Gores for really helping out with this. He made these decisions much clearer, even though we couldn't, excuse me, couldn't get the lighting finished up. Jim, did you want to say anything?
No, thank you. I think what
Come up to the podium if you would, please, Jim.
Thank you. I'm Jim Gores. No, I think what Mr. Gunnison has stated pretty well renders a synopsis of the committee's work, and that it was unanimous among the group that LED lighting be used, which is a white light, similar to what we have here in the room, as opposed to the other option, which Rocky Mountain Power would supply at limited cost to the city. It's not going to be free by any means, which is a high pressure sodium, which gives that yellow light, which we're all familiar with. And whiter light gives a lot better contrast and a lot better visibility for people who are Councilman Heiser's age, as well as those who are my age and Councilman Guard's age. So, but that was the main thing that the committee was unanimous on. Once again, as Mr. Gunnison stated, they felt they would like to, if I'm not misstating it, John, would like to see the decorative luminaires put in place if the city can find supplemental funds to help offset the cost of that, as opposed to just standard Cobra head lighting, which is the other option. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jim. I would like to share Councilman Guard's comments. I attended a couple of those meetings, and they were good meetings, good interchange. And I share the concern of the property owners on North Federal that it's a pretty down economic time, and we're all struggling, I guess, to meet our bills and whatnot. So we're very cognizant of the fact that we don't want to commit ourselves to something that we can't see a way to pay for. I don't think any of us want to do that. But we also recognize that this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for us to do something for North Federal. And anything that we can do within reason, I think we should do. And so we'll keep moving forward with that. But I thought that you did an outstanding job, John, and I really appreciate it too. Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to accept the committee's report as presented.
Your Honor, I'd move to accept the committee's report as presented.
Seconded.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there a discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay. Thank you again. Okay, agenda item number 14, 1% committee, force appointments. City Administrator's report, please.
Yes, Your Honor. On December 4th, the council adopted Resolution 1264 establishing the Fix Our Roads Citizen Committee to advise the mayor and city council on the use of optional 1% tax revenues. Since the election, the city has been asking for volunteers to serve on this committee, and we actually had 14 people say that they were interested in serving on this committee, and I know the mayor sent out emails to council and tried to get some input from council members along with himself to see who should sit on this committee. And I guess the idea behind it is the resolution said that we would have 9 to 11 members on this committee, and so the mayor felt like we should do 9, and so we have 2 from Ward 1, 4 from Ward 2. And the reason we have 4 on Ward 2 is because one's the chairman, and then there's 3 from Ward 3. And I guess I'll read those names of the ones that were appointed to the committee. Art Dykeman, Betty Malicki, Frank Tanner, Garland Samuelson, Mike McDonald, Wendell Manka, Gary Burnett, John Vincent, and Kelly Kirshenek. Hopefully I said that name right. Yeah. So those are
Close.
those are the recommendations of the mayor for appointment to that committee, and then just need the consent of the council to make those assignments.
Okay. The chair would move, or would entertain a motion to accept the appointments of the 1% committee.
Your Honor, I'd move to accept the appointments for the 1% committee as presented.
Seconded.
Okay. Been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? Any changes that anyone would feel strongly to make? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, council committee assignments. City administrators report, please.
Yes, Your Honor. As you know, every January, the mayor appoints city council members to certain committees or boards based on the recommendation of each council member. The city currently has 11 committees, and each council member serves on 1 to 4 of these boards. The committees that we have are Finance, Airport, School District 25 Recreation Board, Board of Appeals, Senior Center Endowment, which is the chair, is always the chairman of the Finance Committee, is the Senior Center Endowment, PAWS, Job Corps, Fremont County Alcohol Crisis Center, Chamber of Commerce, Fremont County Association of Governments, and Solutions Committee. Solutions Committee was kind of a new one that was added. This is the committee that Mike has established. It's not a formal committee, but we felt like it has a lot of merit because it's trying to solve some big issues here in this community, and I think it's had a lot of success thus far. Some of these are city-sponsored boards or committees, and then others are external ones. Just a few things to point out. The Solution Committee was one of them. Even though council members are assigned to these committees, does not mean that you can't attend any of these meetings. So don't think that just because you have your 2 assignments doesn't mean that you can't attend any of these other meetings. There is a cautionary note that if we have a whole bunch show up there, we may have a problem because of quorum issues. We can't have any more than 3 at one given meeting. Otherwise, we have to make it as an actual meeting. And then some may wonder why Councilman Guard has so many assignments, and some of those are because of the position that he holds as the council president. And so obviously Councilman Guard backs up the mayor at any time that he's absent. So Job Corps and FCAG are kind of ones that he inherits as being backups to those. So I guess I'll read through the assignments just so that everybody knows and the public knows. On the Finance Committee, we have Jonathan Fabian, Eric Heiser, and Todd Smith. Airport Board, Mary Ellen Christensen. School District 25 Rec Board, Eric Heiser and Lars Baker. Board of Appeals, Rich Guard. Senior Center Endowment would be the chairman of the Finance Committee. So at the next Finance Committee, they'll elect a chair, and that will be the person that's in charge of the Senior Center Endowment. PAWS, Jonathan Fabian. Solutions, Mary Ellen Christensen. Job Corps, Ron Warpness, Rich Guard, and Eric Heiser. Fremont County Alcohol Crisis Center, Lars Baker. Chamber of Commerce, Rich Guard, and FCAG, Ron Warpness and Rich Guard. And then if you look at the back of that sheet, it actually talks about what all the meetings are so that you know where they're held, what time of the month they are.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weaver. The chair would entertain a motion to accept the mayor's council committee appointments.
Your Honor, I'd make proposal to accept the assignments as noted.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? Everybody feel okay with?
Yes, Your Honor. I just wonder when the Solutions Committee would meet. There's nothing.
Welcome to the committee. We meet on a very random basis. I'll let you know when the next one's
Okay.
scheduled.
Thank you.
That's a new committee, as Mr. Weaver suggested, and I've just been really impressed. I've attended the meeting a couple times, and the breadth of people that are attending it, and the numbers, I was really impressed with. You're doing a wonderful job there, Chief, so keep it up.
Your Honor?
Yes.
Chief, if you could put me on that mailing list, with being on the Alcohol Crisis Board, I'd like to be part of that. Thank you.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, appointments. City Administrator's report, please.
Oh, yes, Your Honor. We have 3 appointments. These are done on an annual basis as per our code. The Municipal Court Judge, Teresa McKee, City Attorney Rick Sollers, and City Administrator Stephen Weaver.
Okay. Is there a motion regarding these appointments?
Your Honor, I'd move to accept the appointments as presented.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion?
Who's that last guy?
Are you sure? Well, okay. All those in favor of the appointments as noted, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Mayor votes aye. I think we've got a good team there, and might as well keep it going for another year. What the heck? Okay, reports and comments. Council committee reports and council members roundtable. Councilman Smith, would you lead off,
Nothing
please?
further tonight, Your Honor. No
Really?
reports.
Okay,
No reports from me either.
Councilman Guard.
Your Mayor, I'd have to apologize for missing the airport meeting last Friday. I apologize for that. Is there anything that we need to bring up to date?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Guard, it was actually a pretty entertaining meeting. It was very interesting. We had some discussions about the city trying to work out a model for self-fueling, and more or less tabled for further consideration. But it's an interesting proposal that Board Member Steen had brought some information forward that showed that where you had self-fueling stations, fuel sales at airports went up 20 to 30%, because the pilots had the convenience of being able to fuel when they wanted to. And much like a self-serve gas station, you know, either there was a perceived or actual economy of doing it themselves. We have to try to figure out how to work that in the context of our relationship with our FBO operator without putting him out of business, you know, because that's part of his income too. So we're still working on that. Yeah, the employments were off about 8% last year, which was not good news. And we keep working on that. But that was really the highlights of it. You kind of put me on the spot.
Thank you. I apologize for missing that. I will miss that committee. That's been enjoyable, and the people that we work with on that committee I've enjoyed working with. I have one other thing that I would like to put forth. We have made an application to the rec board for $80,000 from the city, and I would like a resolution off the table to see who's in favor of that resolution. I have a couple problems with it. I don't believe that we'll be able to spend that money in the near future, and I would not like to take that money out of the operation of the rec board. The other thing that I have some disappointment with, it was faxed to me that I was on the application, and Steve smiles. He's good at that. So those things, I think, just like legislators Floyd Larson points out, that we sent these things out with all good intent, that we're just going to study them just a little bit. And then the next time we hear anything about them, we vote for a green space. And then the next thing we know, we see a gazebo and a restroom on Main Street, and before the council's even in agreement. And I don't mind losing. I can understand that, but I think it's up to the voters to take a look at that and to decide if that's a proper use of rec money. We've had just lately 2 groups come before us looking for additional funds, the skate park and the Little League, and with hundreds of young people involved in those processes. And so I guess my disappointment there is that I would like a resolution very much like we voted on for the state training school, so that we can see when it comes time for the voters to make their choice who was in favor of it and who was not. And I think we just keep kicking this down the road to the point that pretty soon it's reality. And I was on I came to all the meetings for the federal Boulevard Committee, and I know of a number of people that left those meetings truly disappointed that they weren't listened to. And so I think it's important that we be as forthcoming with information and where we're at on those things as possible. And I don't want to take that money out of the hands of the youth of Riverton until there may be a time that we have funds and a place to spend them. Right now, that site's far from being ready to be made into anything. So, other than that, Steve said I probably should bring that up at the round table. And so, do I need to ask for a motion, or what do you?
Yeah, Your Honor, if the wishes of the whole council is to have a resolution on the next meeting addressing that, then that would be appropriate to have a motion for that.
I would make the motion that we take a vote to see who's willing to seek funding from the rec board for $80,000.
I'll second that.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to put forth a resolution regarding the rec board question. Is there further discussion?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I currently sit on the Fremont County Rec Board, and it's not at all unfamiliar for there to be people come and request funds from us, and then ultimately either ask to change the direction those funds are spent, or simply withdraw their request in lieu of doing something else. And I guess not sitting on this board, I don't know if that's also a commonplace thing with them, but I don't think our board sees that, that board doesn't see that as a major hardship. And if you don't make the request at the appropriate time, then you get to wait and try again in a year, is the way our board works. So maybe somebody who sits on the board could clarify that.
Your Honor, it's the same way with the District 25 Rec Board. Essentially, groups make their presentation, which they did last week, and the board votes on how they want the money spent for the year. The groups are then notified and told of the amount that they were awarded, and they have until December 31 of the current year to expend it. If they don't, it goes back to the board, or they can request an extension, and the extension has to be approved by the board. And just within the past 2 to 3 years, we've made that extension process somewhat more rigorous than what it was, because there were people that were just constantly asking for extensions and tying up money. So there has to be a very good reason for why, and usually there is. So those are revisited when it happens, but for instance, this year, the Riverton Rendezvous gave back money because they had money, they were awarded money for a fireworks show, and because of the drought that struck again, there were no fireworks allowed. So they turned that money back. So essentially, if the money's not spent and there's not a good reason as to why it wasn't spent, it goes back into the coffers. So.
Your Honor,
Any other?
in light of that information, I don't see why it's the job of this council to execute the business of that board. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez.
Lee Martinez, President of School District Rec Board number 25. And just to clarify something, the money that we set aside for rec from the city, for the board set some up too, that doesn't come out. It comes right off the top. So that anything that you're asking for will be after that. So it doesn't affect our for rec money at all.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, Lee, I don't quite understand it. Make that clearer for.
Okay, we have, I think it's $34,000 that we give to R for Rec from the Rec Board. That comes right off the top, along with the Aquatic Center, which is $36,000. So anything else that's the city or anybody else asks for does not affect that money at all.
Thank you. Thank you, Lee.
Your Honor?
Yes, Councilman.
Lee, but if there was a supplemental request from Little League or somebody else, that would come in secondarily to the recreation funds,
For the R for Rec and for the Aquatic Fund, that comes off the top. Anything else that's left over, we figure out who we're gonna give it to and how much.
Okay, thank you.
And just for your sake, I know you were asking for a resolution for the next meeting. We have a meeting on the 28th to decide who's going to get money and whatnot. So the resolution might be too late.
Yeah, I understand that.
And as I recall, the skate park folks were at that meeting as well, asking for money.
Yes.
So, okay.
Your Honor, my whole point to the subject is that there, in my mind, there's no way that we'll have the site in a position to be worked on in the year's time. And so I could be wrong. Maybe there's experts in the room that know better how the DEQ works. I have some experience with that myself. So I really don't hold out a lot of hope there. And I would hate to see money tied up that could be used in a more positive way. We can reapply next year if that's the choice for the board. I don't personally think it's a good idea to expend rec funds for a park. The city has the best park system in most of the cities throughout the state of Wyoming. We truly do. And if we want parks there, if we want a park there, I know that Mr. Uberkite and his crew can put a park in there in a short period of time. The problem that we're having is what extent is going to be in that park and what amenities are going to be in that park, and whether we want to spend $250,000 to make that park a reality, and what and where do we stop with that? And so I think that there's a lot of answered in between here and there, and it does make sense to me to tie up rec money. Thank you.
I agree with you, and I would like to know tonight if you guys really want to go on forward with it, or we can take it off the board and wait till next year and see what's going to happen. I hate to give out money and it not being used, and yeah, I know it's going to be returned, but somebody else could use that money.
Yeah. No, I think that the board or that the council did have a vote on this discussion, and as I recall, Councilman Mahoney did move that we move forward with this as a green space. And the council voted, and I understand that there was a couple councilmen that voted nay, and that we've had that vote, we've had that discussion, and from my perspective, we are moving forward on it. So I don't, whether or not it will happen this year, I don't know. I hope it does, but it may not, And as Councilman Fabian suggested, sometimes things don't move as fast as you would like. But I think you have to start moving that ball forward. And I know that there's a difference of opinion on what we should be doing with that property. I understand that. But
Just to clarify something, then, Your Honor, it's no guarantee that you're going to get $80,000.
oh, I understand that, and that's what that's what we were talking about, was that if you don't ask, you don't get, and so that's where we're at. We're hoping that you'll be generous, Mr. Martinez. Yes,
Just
Councilman
a
Smith.
point of clarification on that request. I guess my only concern is not the application for funds or the amount. I guess my concern was, when I read the paper on Sunday morning, is that the city of Riverton requested funds for that property for bathrooms and a gazebo. And so I guess I wonder what our application is, where this body did vote yes to make that a green space as opposed to selling it. This body has not approved any kind of amenities or bathroom or gazebo. And if we requested those funds from the rec board under the guise of if the wording was for bathrooms and gazebo, we're asking for money under false pretenses that this council has not authorized. That's my concern.
Well, it
Not the
depends
green
on
space.
what your definition of a green space is and how you want to, and some people look at it this way and others look at it the other way. I don't, so.
Your Honor, just in addressing the DEQ issue, I mean, we don't know exactly what it will be. They have told us that we could potentially be done by the end of summer and start something in the fall, and that's the reason why we applied for it. And if you remember going back to the discussion, the reason we were pushing to make it, because some people wanted to table it at the time, is we wanted to go out and apply for grants. That's the only way we could move forward. And granted, we didn't talk about all the different things that were part of that park, but we put those things in there as a, I guess, a tool, or you go for the gusto, and then you build whatever you got the money for. And then we come back to the council and say, hey, we got money to build this and this and this. And that's the logic we had in applying for that application, because the motion was fairly broad in the fact it just said green space. Some people could interpret that as just lawn.
Your Honor, if I recall, the gal from the University of Wyoming stated that we had to put something in there. We had to have a purpose, what we were going to use that money for, and we just said arbitrarily we had to have a structure that we were going to apply for those grants for. So that's the only reason. That's what I recall from that discussion.
Regarding your name being on the application, Councilman Gard, you're the council vice president, or president, I'm sorry, and that was, part of the duty, I guess, that you take on, so.
I don't have any problem with that, Your Honor. I think, though, what I'm trying to get around to is that I would like, we did vote for a green space, to build a green space. And I think whenever I've come to you, Steve, and said, this thing's moving in a situation where you've gone out and got what you perceive as an expert, and she comes in and tells me how many parking spaces are on Landers Main Street, and I'd go over and have a great disagreement with her on what she sees. I like Landers Main Street as well as anybody, but ours is a better Main Street and a better look. I'm not disappointed with what I have there, but I think the citizenry, now this is where I'm at, I think the citizenry needs to have a vote of who's in favor of spending. When I read through the application, it was $250,000 was what the bathroom, gazebos, pattern sidewalks, everything that we haven't decided on this table was mentioned. And we've already collected some money. We collected $3,700 from Wyoming Community Gas and targeted this project with it. And so I think what I'm trying to get across is that without much input from the public, we have mainstreamed this project, and it's not very popular. It may be popular to a few on the table, but it's not very popular in the community to have a green space on Main Street. And so I would like the vote specifically that we're going to move forward trying to spend in excess of $250,000 for a green space on Main Street that we already have 3 blocks away. If we're going to spend $80,000 of rec money, I'd be much more enthused to see a whole baseball diamond put back into City Park and used. And that's how we're going to regain the use of City Park, is by putting something in there that draws the public. And if it's not a baseball diamond, then it ought to be a water feature that the mayor's mentioned in the past. I think there's just other things that we can do to regain that. But we have a wonderful park just 3 blocks away that we don't use. And it has bathrooms in it, and it has off-street parking. And so with that said, I think we need a vote on the table for a resolution to proceed with all the amenities that are on the Main Street in the newspaper. Because for one, I'm not in favor of that. And I just want that vote out there. And if everyone else is, I'm used to losing. This isn't the first day for me to lose. So I just want that out there, so when the people stop and say, how in the world did we get this park in the middle of downtown Main Street, we'll be able to say how it got there. Thank you.
Your
Any
Honor,
other discussion?
just to clarify, so is this resolution that we're talking about, is this going to be for the money from the rec board or for the amenities that are going to be on that green space? I'm just not clear on.
I'm not sure that any of us are real clear on it, so.
Is it, so we know what we're gonna,
Well, Your Honor, I think it would have to be on the amenities because as Lee pointed out, their meeting's going to be next week before we can even adopt a resolution. So it's going to have to be on what you actually want in the park. If that's.
And $80,000 falls way short of the 250 range that we're looking at. And so, we are going to have to get other funds to go. And once again, my suggestion would be, if we're going to put a bathroom in, I've been party to 2 of the special use districts and paid my share on both of them for the parking lot and for the Main Street improvement. And I think that's a much fairer way to come up with the money than to take it out of the rec board's money. Because the people that are on Main Street are the ones that are going to benefit from that process. And the rec board, there's all sorts of, this is the way I understand it. I've had 2 rec board members come to me. There's $160,000 over their request level. And so, I think that's the same problem that Representative Larson's having when he gets down and gets his hands on the purse strings. We'd all like a lot of stuff, but can we afford it? And I think that, we need the vote so that people can say, Councilman Guard's an idiot for voting against it.
Well, I think we've already had the vote that we're wanting to move forward on the green space. I think we've had images of what that conceptual idea is, so this doesn't come as a surprise to anyone, at least it shouldn't. And I don't have any problem at all against having community involvement in it. In fact, the amount of money that the city has involved in it to this point is about the limit that I'm looking at. The additional funding is going to have to come from either the city or rec board or Encana or the various other organizations that are prepared to help with the investment in their community. And if they're not willing to step up, fine, it'll go away. It'll be a parking lot. And if that's your vision for the city of Riverton, is to have a parking lot, then so be it. But I think that should be up to the rec board to determine if they want to support this image that we're presenting forward to them. And if they feel as you do, fine, it'll die. I understand that. But this, I don't think, will come as any great surprise to the citizens of Riverton of what some of us would like to see on Main Street. And we desperately need community restrooms on downtown. You go up and down the street and all you see is no public restrooms, no public restrooms, no public restrooms. And I don't know if you've ever tried to use the public restrooms in our park, but they're not a place that I would probably be taking my wife to. And I don't think they're handicapped accessible, and et cetera. And so I just feel that our community, a population of 10,000, can do better. And that's what I'm in hopes for. And, but whether or not it happens, I have no idea. But I know we can analyze it to death and it'll kill it. And it's an opportunity for us now. We worked for over a year to get that piece of property, and it's a prime location, and it's a contaminated piece of ground that isn't going to probably be used by someone to build an office building or something like that on it. I can't envision that. Maybe it will in the future. But it's an ideal location for what we're talking about here, and so, but.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I was not on this council at the time the green space was approved, but I was sitting out there, and I distinctly remember the question being asked that if the council went forward with this motion, would that mean that, if later we got a offer to buy that piece of property that we were.
Okay. Is there anything else for your report?
No. Okay. That's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you.
Councilman Heiser.
We had a motion. Your Honor, we had a motion and second on that, I believe.
Oh, did we? Yeah. Okay. We have can you read the motion back again, please?
I believe the motion by Councilman Guard was to, Kristen, did you take that verbatim? Okay. Well, my notes say a motion to present a resolution to seek funding for $80,000 for 422 East Main for application to the Fremont County Rec Board.
Okay.
Your Honor, just point of clarification, it's actually the District 25 Recreation Board. Fremont County is a separate entity.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign?
No.
No.
No. Okay.
Mayor, that was confusing to we simple-minded people. You might re-hit that.
What
So
was
that was, I was confused by that. The only reason I'm doing this is that I am the new appointed guy to the rec board, and I need to know how I'm
Your Honor,
supposed to
just
vote.
that's the part here that's disconcerting to me. This vote has nothing to do with what's going on Monday. Zero. This council has voted, the vote has been taken, and it's done. The application is in, the board will decide on Monday the merit of that application and make a determination from there. If Councilman Guard wants to put members of this board in the public because he lost a vote, that's great. But we need to be real careful about what we're doing here in terms of bringing back motions that have been voted for months ago and asking to have those council people recommit their stance on the vote. I think it borders on the ridiculous what we're doing here right now. So essentially, what was asked for was a resolution for a meeting that won't even happen until after the rec board has met and made decisions, stating that we are or are not in favor of something that was already approved by this council.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I would just add that, if we want to discuss the exact design of the green space, then certainly that might be an appropriate topic of conversation in a forthcoming meeting. However, I completely agree with Councilman Heiser. We're backpedaling here.
That's where I'm confused, Your Honor. I think that we agreed to, look for grants and look for funds. My confusion comes in is, did we agree to ask for funds for restrooms? We haven't kind of solidified what that green space looked like. To me, a green space is grass and a bench. To you, it's gazebos and bathrooms, so that's where the confusion's coming from me.
Your Honor, I would submit then if you have that confusion, it should have been brought up at that meeting.
And I don't want to be crass about it, but I don't think you've been paying attention if you're confused on that issue. Because since I've been involved in working hard on this particular issue, they have always been a part of that discussion.
I just thought decisions
there
on
is-
design were coming later.
Well, I think they are. This is,
Okay.
this is just an artist's conception. Okay, and that's all. And when we reach that point, if we reach a point that we have $250,000 in our budget, okay, then we can spend a lot of time on the design. Okay, but if you're going out and trying to generate monies, from donations and whatnot, you don't have the money to spend on an architectural design or whatever. That one piece of little bit of artwork over there cost $350, and I paid for that personally out of my pocket. Okay, so it's that kind of a deal that we're discussing. So I don't understand your confusion on it, and I share your frustration, Councilman Heiser, that I thought that we had this vote already on this issue, and I knew that we were not unanimous on it, but
So I guess, Your Honor, I apologize for insulting you and those who voted for it. I, once again, the vote was for a green space, and there was no dollar sum. I think my job here is to try to understand the money that we're spending. $250,000 for a green space on Main Street has never been mentioned on this table. Not once has that total been mentioned here. And we come off and we're told by individuals that we're just looking at our options. And before we know it, I had this conversation with Councilman Baker when we took that vote. And I said, tomorrow's headline will be that city approves a park on Main Street. And Lars said, no, it won't. And that's what the headline was. Many of us didn't think we approved a park on Main Street. We approved to look forward for grant funds for a green space. And then the next time we see it in the front page of the paper, it's turned into a $150,000 project. And that's where I'm at. And I honestly don't think that I should be ridiculed for my interest in trying to find out where that money's going to come from. You may think that you've
trying
invested
to locate the money.
$350.
That's the issue.
You've invested $350 in a concept that you really want. And I think we'd be wise to find out if the voters choose to have that concept.
I don't disagree. And I think when we reach that point.
And that's exactly what I was trying to come around to, was that we could get a vote for that concept. And I don't think we've approved that. I could be way off base. Maybe everybody thinks we approved that concept, but I don't think that was the case.
Your Honor,
Councilman Baker.
could I add something here?
Certainly.
It just seems to me like we've filed an application for this brownfields thing, but have we gotten any response on that?
We've gotten a little bit from the DEQ, but
There's no award on anything.
no,
Okay.
we have not.
All right, so in my mind, our ability to sell that property as opposed to give it away hinges on whether or not we get a cleanup through DEQ. And then we get a clean bill of health that goes with that. And so then that eliminates the concern that a future buyer would have on the property. Now, so if the brownfields thing comes through, then that puts us in a position possibly to have that property improved to the point where it actually is a sellable commodity. Okay? And I don't have, and to be honest with you, I would have to say that I think that having a business on that piece of property would be a higher and better use. But if we don't get a brownfield grant to clean that up, then what we own is a piece of contaminated ground. And under those circumstances, then probably the highest and best use for that piece of property is a park. But there was enough vagueness in every discussion and motion that in my mind, we were simply always leaving the door open for something down the trail. But we decided we'd pull it off the market because we didn't feel like it was going to be anything we could sell at a reasonable price until we could get some resolution on whether or not we could get that cleaned up. And so I guess in my mind, I'm still waiting to find out if we can get it cleaned up, see? So I've got mixed direction on this. I'm not, so you see, here I am tonight. I'm not prepared to say I'm absolutely, totally opposed to building a park there with restrooms. Okay, I'm not ready to say no, never. I'll lay down in the road and let cars run over me before I'll allow that to become a park. Okay, I'm not going to say that. And yet at the same time, I guess in my mind, if it could be sold and the city could recoup the money that we have invested in that piece of property, that would be a better thing to do. But that kind of hangs on whether or not we're going to get some support out of DEQ, and then what kind of a deal we get from them. What is that, if they're going to pay, 90% of the cost, that's one thing. If they're going to pay 40% of the cost, then the city's going to have to, we're going to have to get together with Courtney here in the back room and decide where those funds are going to come from. And that isn't any different than that, and that's the same way with building the concept, is that at some point in time, I have no doubt, but what the city will have to figure out somehow out of general fund budget, how we're going to make up the difference between the money that's been committed by others and what we're going to spend of our own. And how close we can get to that, and where we happen to be as far as funding is concerned, it all seems to me like that's something that has to be decided when we go through the budgeting process. And there's a lot of things that are still hanging up in the air. So I guess I don't have a problem going ahead and asking for the grant, okay? Because once we've said, well, this is what we'd like to do, and then the rec board says, yeah, that's fair, we'll give you $80,000 to do that, and then we can't follow through on that, we can just give it back to them. And they understand that. So I don't see a problem with that.
I don't either.
Okay.
And I think that was the grounds that we were asking for that money.
Okay, so see, I'm just seeing that there's still lots of options open on the table for this, and Councilman Guard's right. We haven't voted that we're going to spend $250,000 to build the park.
Mr. Heiser, do you have your committee report?
The rec board met last week.
You weren't there.
I wasn't there.
I know, I was there, you weren't there.
So we will meet again Monday, and we will have a discussion. I've heard from one of the members that the requests were much, much higher than what we've gotten even in the past 5 or 6 years. So probably this 30-minute discussion that we just had will be all for naught. But we'll see. We'll see what happens when things shake out. Just to kind of give a little clarification as to what Mr. Martinez was talking about, essentially the way the rec board funds the grants each year is there's 2 grants that essentially the board views as top priority and always funded. And that is Riverton Recreation, which is our recreation, and the Riverton Aquatic Center. So we fund those 2 to the tune of $70,000 total, 36 for the pool, 34 for our rec. After that, the board makes a determination, which we'll do Monday, as to how much money, after looking at the grant requests, we're willing to take out of the tax money that comes in to be used for grants for that year. lots of things go into deciding what that is. First and foremost is always, what do the tax levies look like? Last year, tax levies were down. This year, they're up again. We're always a year behind. So our checks this year might be a little lighter than they were the year before from the county assessment for the district. So once that number is decided upon, we come up with that number and look at the numbers that were presented to us and say, we got this much, you asked for this much, you're either getting some, none, or all. And that's how it'll work on Monday night. And shortly after that, the groups will be notified of the status and money will be ready to be spent. So that's what we'll be up to next Monday evening.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I have no reports.
Nothing. Okay, thank you. Councilman Baker.
Your Honor, I did get a chance to meet with the Alcohol Crisis Board last week, and there is some discussion ongoing at the present time to merge the alcohol crisis folks with Fremont Counseling, and we don't know yet what the financial fallout of that will be and how that would all work, but there is a meeting in February that will talk about that in greater detail. The challenge is the state's required certification for the programs, and so it appears that it would be easier to meet state certification if our alcohol crisis program was umbrellaed with Fremont Counseling. And so there is action in that direction, and so I thought I'd report that to the council at this time, and we could hope that that would move along at a quick enough clip so that we'll be able to budget appropriately for that in the future, the next fiscal year.
Did they get their heater fixed? I know we were contacted the other day that they were having problems with their heat system down there.
I don't know anything about that.
Okay, City Administrator's report, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Just a reminder, we have our goal setting for January 29th. It's, I initially said it was going to be at 4, but one of the council members can't make it at 4, so we're going to go from 5 to 8, between 8 and 9. We didn't set an exact time there, but, and that will be up at the R Recreation Building in that same room that we met in last year. Also, on your, I put in front of your chairs the letter from George Piplica. They currently are marketing our city-owned properties, and the parcels that are out there at the hospital, the listings are coming or expiring at the end of the month, and they're asking to be renewed. And so I would like to have a motion to continue on with trying to market these properties to be sold. And we can talk about at a later date the other issues in relation to trying to change the zones on them. And then the other thing is your financial disclosure statements that's in front of you. We need to have those filled out tonight. So this is the financial disclosure statement, which says, pursuant to Wyoming statute, I hereby disclose that, to the best of my knowledge, I've received a pecuniary benefit, or I conducted personal business with, or have a financial interest in the following depositories or firms where funds of the city of Riverton are invested. And so you're checking boxes of where you have your funds, personal funds listed. And so I've filled these out, and so we just have to put that in the record that all of the council member, mayor and council, and city clerk and myself has filled that out. That's all I have. So just a motion for the home source.
Okay.
Your Honor, I move that we relist those properties as presented.
Seconded. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to relist the properties with home source. Is there a discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Okay, mayor's comments. We've had an interesting meeting this evening. Enjoyed the discussion, and it would sure be a boring world if we all thought the same way. That was for sure. But I guess from a committee standpoint, I don't really have anything. I did have one issue that I want to bring up, and it's, I guess, taking advantage of the bully pulpit here with the city. But my wife and I went out to the casino the other day and had lunch, and we left about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And driving out on South Federal, right before we got to the intersection of Monroe, in the center driving lane was a large metal object laying in the middle of the road. And I swerved around it and made a mental note that it was something that could be a real driving hazard. And so went out, had lunch, came back about an hour and a half later, I suppose, and coming back on the other lane of traffic, I looked over and there's the object still laying in the middle of the road. And it really bothered me, so I went home. I was in my wife's car, so I didn't, but I went home and dropped her off, got my pickup up, and went and picked it up. And drove back down there and picked this large object up off of the road. And I just I have it sitting over there against the wall, and I set it over there so that maybe our cameras can pick it up. But it just really concerned me to think how long had that been laying there before I saw it, and how long would it continue to lay there before someone else, some fool, I guess, come along and picked it up like I did. I don't know. How many of our city vehicles were driving by it and would just drive by something like that laying in the road? How many cars that hit it that potentially had caused damage? How many tribal vehicles were there? How many highway patrol vehicles were there? How many county vehicles are driving up and down that road and are prepared to leave something like that lay in the middle of the road for at least 2 hours that I know of and not bother to pick it up? And I just, think that we have such a concern over trash issues in our community and picking things up, and we've got a beautiful community here. But gosh darn it, citizens, we need to work together to try to do what we can to help on issues like that. It was just, and I just am very deeply concerned about those kinds of issues, and I don't know what to do about it, quite honestly, except just use this position to try to draw our attention to them and try to do what we can. So, at any rate, yes.
I'd just like to say, unfortunately, there's people stranded out on the streets sometimes, and I think the thing to do is to step up and help them, whether it's a piece of metal in the road or a citizen lost that has Alzheimer's standing in the middle of Federal for a while. I mean, we got to just take that first step.
Yeah, so, there's a lot of ways that we can help. And that's.
Thank you.
At any rate, we had a good meeting this evening, and I appreciate it. And in spite of our disagreement on these issues, we're going to be all right. So, okay. Chair would entertain a motion to adjourn at this time.
Move to adjourn.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.